Our time, I'm fumbling here with my technology, I apologize. So we'll get started. It's 1:15. And first of all, I want to thank you for being here. Secondly, I want to let you know that this is geared toward an elementary school model of personalized learning. So with that being said, before I even flip a page, turn anything, I want to ask you guys, is there anything that you came here looking for? I know that's a very broad question. Yes?
Yeah. How did we move to the high school? So should I read?
Well, that's the thing. So you're going to see a lot of primary. You're going to see a lot of cute color-coded things because I'm elementary. So you might not get what you want out of it in terms of how at the schools.
I mean, like
The principles of personalized learning are the same, but I'm going to show you how we implement it. So when I show various things, they're going to be geared toward an elementary school level. Will you get things out of it? Absolutely. Okay. I don't blame you. Anyone else who, the biggest question, how can you do this with primary age kids? How can you personalize learning with kids who are not yet able to read, just learning how to write? Some might not even know their letters. How do you do that? And the very first thing I'm going to tell you is that in your mind, I want you to think of two thoughts. One is curriculum and one is learner. And how do those two things combine? So when you think of a child, a learner, who isn't yet able to read or write, who doesn't know their letters, and that's your goal as an educator, how can you get them there in a way that's empowering to them? Is it through curriculum or is it through the child? So that's just something I want you to ponder a little bit. My name is Lisa Welch. I am a K-1 educator, so I do teach the little ones. And our school is in Wisconsin, Wales, Wisconsin, and it's called KM Explore. So I'm going to give you a little background history on myself and our team. So our team consists of 6 core educators, and we are a school within a school. So what happened was one day we were sitting around just thinking about how can we change things. I came from a background of pull out the file folder. It's fall. I'm going to pull out the file folder for September, and I'm going to see how many apples Johnny can put on top and count those. And if I know he can count to 10, he's going to show me by cutting out 10 red apples and putting them on top of some head that he just drew. And year after year, that was how we taught. Because there it was. All we had to do was open the file folder. All we had to do was look. We knew it was a trusted and true method of getting to whether he knew how to count to 10 or not. And then the day came when I asked myself, why are we gluing marshmallows on the letter M? That was the day I said, this has got to change. We had the letter line up, and everybody put fish crackers on a letter F. Everybody put marshmallows on the letter M. And I said, how are they really understanding that's an M? Because they have yummy marshmallows in front of them that they can't eat. These great fish crackers that ooze this gooey goo all over their paper. Bunch of oils in there. And I started thinking to myself, are they all really getting what they need from doing that? And that was the day my teaching partner and I, who happened to be taking our master's class together in creative arts and learning, thought to ourselves, there's got to be different ways for these kids to show their learning. As a matter of fact, there's got to be different ways for us to teach to them. And so at the time, this was 8 years ago, we asked our principal, who was a great guy, can we cut a hole in our wall and have 2 giant classrooms? And we were waiting for the no. We were expecting the no. And then we were expecting him to give us an alternative, but the answer was yes. And he's like, okay, by next fall, you are going to have an 8-foot hole in your wall. It's a load-bearing wall. We can do this. And we were excited. And he said, but first you have to take a marriage test. And we did, because he said, if you're going to team together, and that was our true goal, was to team teach and integrate the arts, you need to find out if you're compatible enough. And we kind of knew that already about ourselves. And it's funny I just said that because at our table with my friend Krista over here, we were just talking about as adults, we always say that. I kind of knew that about myself. I already know these things about myself. And sometimes we don't think that way for kids, do we? We don't want them to kind of know what they know about themselves. We kind of tell them what they know about themselves. But that's a digression. So we already knew that kind of about ourselves, that this was going to be successful. And it was. So then 2 other teachers who happened to join our school came about 2 years later and wanted to multi-age teach. So we were team teaching in a straight kindergarten classroom. These 2 wanted to multi-age in a 3-4 classroom. And again, our district, very forward thinking at the time, said, try that. There was a lot of contention with parent community. There was a lot of just, how are you going to do this? And their biggest fear was, how is lunch going to work? How are they going to eat lunch with their friends if you're a 3-4? And it's those kinds of things, those barriers that we had to jump over to get to where we are now. So as a group of 4, we took it one step further and we applied for charter school status. And we were granted charter school status. So we became a school within a school. And that's how KM Explore came about. So now we are in our 4th year of implementation. So we're kind of flying high. And I'm going to show you a little bit about, I don't know where my remote is either. I kind of lost that too. Show you a little bit about us. So we're based on 5 pillars. Our first pillar is a generative curriculum. And by that I mean we let the kids do a lot of thinking for us. So when we speak to the curriculum, we think about sort of like a backwards design. What are you interested in? And then how can we fit our learning goals into that? So that's one of the things I'll talk about today. We do multi-age learning. So we have 3 groups. We have K1, a 2-3, and a 4-5. And they consist of about 45 to 50 on average per learning community. We focus on the habits of mind, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's sort of our way of citizenship and how kids think about how they can be good citizens within the world. And we do collaborative teaching and learning. So by collaborative, I mean when we team, we truly team. There's not one teacher up there doing this and then the other one sitting at their desk. And I also mean that the kids are teaching as well. So we don't just look at ourselves as the educators anymore, we look at our learners as the educators. And then we focus on optimal learning spaces. And when I say that, it's within and without of the school boundaries. So anytime, anywhere, and everywhere learning is a big focus of ours. And how can we take the learning outside of our school and give the kids those rich experiences so that they can extend those when they're within the 4 walls of our school. So on your table is the honeycomb from the Institute of Personalized Learning. And this is where my great color coding comes in. So as I go through this, you're going to notice the core components are going to be in blue. And then we're going to talk about the learning aspect and teaching aspect, and then relationships and roles, and then structures and policies. So it'll just color code itself. I did forget to mention that if you wanted to follow along and you want to quick do that, that's the short URL for this presentation. You could not get it? Oh. I'll see what I can do after. GOO. Dot. Okay. I apologize. I'll try and find out why that's not working. We'll get it to you. So as I go through this, we're going to start with the learner, because the learner is at the core. So the core components are learner profiles. So you might have heard a little bit about learner profiles this morning, and I just want to reiterate that they're really co-created by the educator and the learner. It provides us current information about the learner, their likes, their dislikes. It might even be demographic data. And it usually includes their skills and what drives their learning. So some examples of some of the learner profiles that we have are, I'm going to show you this one right here is a lower example. We use something called Seesaw. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Seesaw. It's an app where you can really house a child's learning, and I'll show you some of that. But we're trying to get our young learners to be a part of this profile making. So what we were doing is we would we'd do this. We'd sit down with them and we'd say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Then we'd say, what are you interested in? What do you like to play with? And we're trying to get them more into the aspect of what do you do as a learner that makes you who you are? And then have them start really creating their profiles without us dictating what we want them to say. So that's where some of the bottom came from. After we start talking about who are you as a learner and what are the things you want people to know about you, and you know, when Mrs. Welch grew up, she always wanted to be a nurse. Well, I wasn't, I'm a teacher. And those are the kinds of things we want to start talking about so we can get them thinking about it. And then this is an example of one that came from our 4-5. And how this was formed was, if any of you were in Ryan Crone's morning session, he showed you a book called Tapping the Power of Personalized Learning by Jim Merkabah. There is a section on learner profiles in there, and it kind of runs through what kinds of things look good on a learner profile, or what kinds of things will help the learner and the educator. And so our 4-5 teachers sat down with the kids, and they really talked them through it, and then they created different profiles that way. Okay, and then one of those other components of the honeycomb is the customized learning path. So that's personal to the learner. And again, the teacher and the child are making the goals together. And it usually runs around core subject areas, but it also can involve things that dispositions of the learner, or goals that are beyond the academic for the learner. In our school, we have it on our Google Drive, so everyone has access to it. It's shared with the parents, it's shared with all the teachers, and then the learner also has access to it. So this is an old example of one of our plans. This is not the one that we are using this year. But what this is it's something we created where the profile is connected up here. All the math standards you can click on, and they're connected right there, so you can conference with the child. So if I open that up, you would see that all of the standards are connected. And we can go through these wherever they are, what area they might be in counting, cardinality, numbers, and operations, and we can talk about some of those goals within what they're doing. And then we create the goals according to that goes on the plan. And then this is not anything we're doing anymore because, like I said, we're always trying to find ways to help those primary learners and to get those primary learners more involved and driving their own learning. So this is a lot of words, for lack of a better way to say it. So let me see if I can just go to the next one, and then I'll come back to this. So we're going towards something like this. And at the bottom, these are all goals, learning goals and subject areas. But when you open them, they're all icon-based. So the targets are on top, and then the icons are there. So we can help a child along even more by having these icons. And so what I've just done is I just used Google, and I screenshotted them, and you can cut and paste them right into that plan I showed you. So the kids have a pictorial view of the goals versus just the writing. So we keep changing all the time. I'm going to go back, though, and show you this intermediate plan. So our 4-5 uses something called a learning menu. And in the morning, at their morning meeting, they all get together and they talk about things that they've done, and then they fill this out. What their plan, their individual plan for learning is that specific day. And then they write down what they've accomplished. They even have a place for their specials on there. And then at the bottom, I really like this because this is separated into 2 different sections. One accomplishment I am proud of today, and for home learning I can. So if there's anything that they want to do at home, or they want to extend from their day, we're not, in our school we look at homework more as what are you going to do to extend it, not what are we going to give you to practice. So it's that real notion of anytime, anywhere learning. Okay, and I kind of went through that. So this is that example of that. All of the standards are there, so it's all in one place. So the learning and teaching aspect. When we do the personal learning goals, we like to provide the rapid cycle feedback, which means we want to really get those kids at the moment they're learning and at the moment they need a little push or challenge or, oh, I never thought of that moment. So we like to work with them often to do just little conferring, and we think that's so much more powerful than the afterwards, the summative assessment, or what happens. So we talk through these learning goals all the time. And then as those goals are being worked on or met, and I say met as a very loose term because if we look at kids as writers, this was just mentioned this morning, they're developing all the time. So we never want to look at them as that they've mastered something. But we talk to the kids in that way, like, oh my gosh, you met this goal within this piece, or you've met this goal by telling me this. Now, how could we do some other things? But once they've done that work, they write an email to their parents. And we are a one-to-one Chromebook school, so we can just sit side by side with them and they can write it. So we'll put down some of those goals, and you can see she wrote, "Hi Mom, I met my goals." And then at the very top, it's very hard to read, but it says, "I'm very proud of you. Great work, sweetheart. Keep it up. I love you very much." And there's a lot of things that are happening there. So we've just empowered that child to communicate their learning to the parents. We've just given the parents the communication that they need for their child's learning. And nobody's going to not answer their child. Nobody's not going to write back. And that's one of the things we found out with communication to parents, is that if we can get the kids communicating with the parents are getting a lot more information. They gloss over a lot of emails. You would think my emails were so important, but they don't appear to be. But when it comes from their child, it's always good news. Another thing that's really important to us and that drives a learner's mindset is multiple instructions, methods, and modes. So one of the things that we really talk about at the beginning of the year is how do you work as a learner? Who are you as a learner? And if somebody's doing one thing this way and you would like to do it another way, is that okay? And we really, really talk about the difference between the technology, the paper, the pencil, the 3D image, and how can you feel more comfortable or most comfortable sharing your learning. So we do whole group experiences, and I did not say whole group instruction for a reason. A lot of our whole group work is an experience around something that might have happened in our classroom. It might be an experience around something that we've generated, but it is never a direct instruction type of a whole group. And we want to make sure that we always individualize that, if we always do it in small groups, and we always personalize that, because everybody's at a different place. But whole group experiences, I still believe, are extremely important for community and for making sure that people hear problems that might be happening in the lunchroom. So that's an example that we might use. Something happened in the lunchroom. Let's talk it out as a group, and let's really look into that. So we use that. We use small group instruction, individual instruction. Our technology tools are blended learning and each other. And we do a lot of peer teaching. I'll show you that. So when you get this, I will not play this, but one side is my teaching partner and I kind of modeling for the kids how we learn best and showing them. I'm a more technological person. She's more loves to create crafty sewing. And how can we both show the same things but use what we know best and how we learn best? And so this side kind of shows a little bit of what it looks like in our classroom. So you'll see some kids on technology, some kids with paper, all working different places. Some are collaboratively working. So everybody kind of can do what they need to do to share their learning out. And we're okay with that. I wanted to show this slide and just some of the things we do for assessment of, for, and as learning. So we do FastBridge, and we also do MAPS. That's our summative assessments. We use Teacher College Running Records, if any of you are familiar with that. Saravello, Dreambox, 10 Marks, and Alex. And we look at that as a very formative assessment because it guides the kids' learning and it helps them know where they are as learners. But the most important, I feel, is that assessment as learning. So when you're in the moment with the child and you're doing that rapid cycle feedback and that peer teaching and you're conferring, it mostly can happen every minute of every day. And that's where you get that true rich information about that child. So our learner choice happens often, and some of us don't even think about that. So seating is very learner driven. Where do you learn best? Where do you eat best? Where are you going to have your snack today? Where is your learning time going to be? Are you going to choose blended learning? Are you going to choose paper pencil? It can change. And what tools will you use? And will you work with someone? We like to give them as much flexibility as we can because we found that the more flexibility, the more choice, the more engagement, the more success. Now we're in the green, relationships as roles. So as we co-design our learning together, we do share outs during the day. And we find that very important to do it that way. So when I talked about that whole group instruction, I'm going to kind of share with you a little bit of how we show some of that instruction, but it's really child-driven. So this is an example of a share-out that we do for reading. And it's one of our little girls sharing what she did during her reading time and how she can be helping others at the same time. Which is on our learning plan goals. So we find that so much more powerful than us talking about comparing and contrasting or comparing characters. And then we can ask them, how does that relate to them? Because now they've heard stories from their friends and they can work with their world and relay stories about themselves. And like, oh, I remember when Lena did that. At Explore, we do a lot of things with our family. We want to engage our families as much as we can. So we have a day called See It Live, where we invite parents just to come and spend the day with us. And how does our learning look throughout the day? And they're free to come for the whole day. They're free to come for an hour. They're free to come for as long as they need to see how our learning happens. We also have a learner-led conference. And we only do that once, and I'll tell you why in the next slide. We do that usually at the end of the year, more in April and May. And we also hold parent nights. So our parent nights are just informational nights. So if you're really wondering about learning plans, come this night. If you're really wondering about how we do reading in our classroom, come this night. We have a kickoff versus an open house. So one of the things that we believe in is that an open house is a great way for the parents and the teachers to meet, but it's not the best way for the parents to meet other parents and the kids to meet other kids. So we do a picnic or a kickoff. This year we did a kickoff and we played kickball and we had snow cones and the kids played on the playground while the parents talked with other parents, talked with the teacher, and it was just a nice community building thing. And believe it or not, they didn't even drop off their supplies that day. They brought their supplies first day, second day, even a week into school. We do a spaghetti dinner every year that our 2-3 creates and runs, so that every year they plan it and they make sure that they're the waiters and the waitresses. And they get the advertising, so we get advertising from businesses around our area, and they kind of run that show. This year we're doing a barn dance. So the kids are creating a barn dance with one of our family's barns down the road, and they're planning the whole thing. And the goal is to have another way for our parents to engage together. And so our K1 is doing all the decorations, the 2-3 is doing all the games, and then the 4-5 is doing the food. So it's we kind of give them all that planning work, that autonomy, and they come up with some really great ideas. To also keep the family involved, we give them access. We try to be transparent about mostly everything we do. They have access to their plans. They can edit their plans. They have access to their profiles. Likewise, they can edit it. Their progress, all the tools that we use, they know. And we're also starting some tutorials on Seesaw so that parents and learner alike, if they need a little tutorial in something, they can see that at home, as well as the learner can see that at home. We do not conference twice a year. We conference every month. We wanted to change that format as well. So we were thinking to ourselves, why do parents wait till November if they want to talk to us in October? Why would parents, if they want to talk to us in January, have to wait till May? So we do conferencing in 2 to 3 hour blocks once a month. And we send out signups, and parents, if they would like to talk with us, or if we would like to talk with them, we say, we might need you to come in. And so that gives them the opportunity to be able to see us when they would like to see us, or when they feel they want to learn more about their child's learning. And it gives them those options. So there's no longer that scheduled, let's put it on the calendar, November 14th, this conference time. So as I said, there's 3 team teaching teams, and we collaborate together. And we're starting to work in K-5 units, so we have K-5 workshops, and we can all work as teams together, then the 6 of us. And we've even started a theory of action. A lot of districts go into their plans and they plan out how they're going to show changes in their learners and how their learners, let me see if I can open this, how the district is going to show improvement. And gosh, that's small, I apologize. And we went into theory of action, so it's an if-then statement. If we do this, then how will it impact the learner? And as a group of teachers, we decided this would be more powerful if we came up with these versus our administration just saying, this looks like, you know, we're going to do this percentage increase in our reading skills. So ours are focused on our pillars. And if our students have some place-based learning experiences every month, then we will increase their knowledge of, and we happen to be going to one of our parks that's really close to us, and we have a collaborative effort with them this year, and that's one of our ways of going out into the community. So it helps us as educators really work toward the same goal and really focus the learner at the center of it. Okay, and we also have micro-credentialing in our district. Familiar with micro-credentialing through Digital Promise? That's, so as educators, we are now able to design our professional development. We're able to say, I think we want to learn more about this, and if we plan a micro-credential, which means we submit what we would like to learn and how we would show evidence of it, that is how we do our professional development. So it's really nice. It's no longer I have to get in this many credits and go to this college to do that. It's all housed within our district now. So these are just our beliefs on multi-age. We think it provides a really common experience when kids can work together in a K-5 unit. Very collaborative, and it really helps us go out into the community together too. So one of the things that we do is we carol every year. We go out into communities and we do caroling as a K-5 school. And it's really nice to see the kids work together. And they're no longer kindergartners and fifth graders. They're a community working towards making people happy. And we know that personalized learning is interdependent, so that's one of the things that helps when we multi-age as well. So there's just some of the examples of how we go out and we generate our learning. So there happened to be a little free library down the road from our school, and we took a walk and we noticed it, and the kids were so excited about that, and it prompted them to make their own little free libraries in the classroom. And we integrated all of our subjects into that. So we talked about fiction and nonfiction books. We talked about measuring. We did all sorts of things with just a little free library, which is a book box that was on the side of the road. When we were out for recess one day, we heard our band. We have our high school right next to us, and we heard our band practicing homecoming. And all of a sudden, the kids were like, what is that? And so let's go find out. We actually went right in the moment, found out what they were doing, and we were able to walk in the homecoming parade with them. It turned into a big learning experience that we could go with them. We learned about the band instruments, we learned about how they practice, and then we actually marched in the band. So that's just some of those kind of generative things that we do. And we also bring in lots of experts. So we do seminars, and seminars are, Krista talked a little bit about seminars, but our seminars happen at the end of our day, and they're geared towards a certain interest, and the kids can choose what seminar they'd like to be in. But for every seminar, we try to bring in an expert from our community. So in our Take Flight seminar, we brought in a pilot. In our Proud to be an American, we brought in somebody who was in the Army. In our plant sale, we brought in a farmer. which is kind of funny, a farmer, but he actually sells at our farmer's market down the road. So his goal was to teach us how, when we go to the farmer's market and sell our plants, that this is how he does it. And then we also use our habits of mind, and that's our way. I kind of talked about that a little bit, about our citizenship. So we think about persisting, thinking flexibly, managing impulsivity, listening with empathy, and creating and innovating. And we've created a series of videos that the kids can watch that are geared towards those habits. And it's a more engaging way for them to learn more about what does it mean to persist. When we listen with empathy and understanding, what does that look like? And it prompted them to actually create their own videos. So that's something that really helped engage them. And that's just an example of, I happen to be the creators of these habits of mine, and they're very silly at times, but fun. And then we'll talk about structures and policies. I have 5 minutes, don't I? Yes. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit quicker. Anytime, anywhere learning. So when we do our anytime, anywhere learning, it can happen at our high school. It can happen on our playground. We had a farm day. It can happen through the little free library. This year we're doing the barn dance. So we actually went to the barn and we used it as our classroom last week. We wanted the kids to get a feel of what the barn is so they can plan how this barn dance is going to look. They needed the visual. We've gone to Lapham Peak to look at rocks, which is another state park by our school. And right after that, we went to the public library and we researched. And it's just a different place for the kids to learn. So we could have come back to school and research, but since we were that close to the library, why not give them another opportunity to learn in a different place and to connect with community members? And Retzer is a park by our school that it's acres and acres of woods. And they're connecting with us this year, and every month we go to Retzer and we learn how is the environment changing around us. And we're learning about soil samples and things like that. So that's going to be exciting too. All of these things are giving the kids the ability to see that learning just doesn't happen in school, and that learning isn't just handed to them, but it's something that they're a part of. This is a recognition of anytime, anywhere learning. So this little girl sat on her couch and
Hi, my name is Mila, and I'm going to
she'll tell you.
I made it out of popsicle sticks. First, I made one layer, and then I put some sticks on the bottom, and then I put another layer, and then I painted it. And you have to glue it with 2 popsicle sticks together, and then you let it dry, and then you keep gluing them together. It's kind of complicated to do. And I made 2 layers so it's strong. Now I'm going to test it.
Okay, I'm going to stop her right there. She's going to be successful. But the piece of that is the background of that is this little girl was trying to make this bridge, and I can only imagine what was happening at home as she was making this bridge and the thoughts she was thinking, and how am I going to show this, and how am I going to share this, and send it to school. And the outside learning to us is just as important as the inside learning, because now we can build on that. That doesn't necessarily show us academics. In a way, it does if you have the background about it. But can we build off of that? Absolutely. In ways that are immeasurable. So these are just some snapshots of our classrooms. So our flexible seating, we wanted to make it as homey as possible. So we have kitchen tables, we have leather chairs, we have traditional chairs, we have those wobble chairs. I can't think of the name right now. They're everywhere. Everything is movable if the kids want to move it, except for the very heavy kitchen tables. But it's designed so that they can be flexible in it. It's designed so they can decide where they're going to learn best that day. And then we also have an outdoor environment, which has a greenhouse. And we like to use that as our outdoor classroom. We have some chairs, we have some big rocks, we have planter boxes, which you don't see, that the kids can sit alongside. And they have a great time out there. And we usually go as a group because it's elementary school and we need to make sure that they're okay. This is some of the technology that we use. Our Seesaw blog is probably the biggest thing that I want to show you before we have to move on. So today, I wasn't there, but I do know that 6 friends added to the blog, and 2 of them were Mrs. Welch. So I can add to the blog, and all the kids can see what I'm doing today. And I find that just as important to them and to me, so that they know what my life is, what's happening in my life, and I know what's happening in theirs. So today I can see that my friend, when I open it up,
These are my nice cows, and the little ones have right here.
so that little friend, she did that today, and I wasn't there. And my teaching partner is. But it's such rich learning that now is housed in one place. And I would recommend you look in, if you're thinking about primary blogging, storing learning, Seesaw is a great place. And we can put these things in folders now. So this little guy today worked in math, and he put it in his math folder. There's a math folder right there. And his mom can answer, because his mom is part of this blog, and she said, nice job with your facts of 10. And it's a really nice place to have all of the learning housed. And they can do videos, they can do screenshots, they can use their camera app, they can do typing, they can do drawing. It's just we find it to be very beneficial. And that's it. So I just right on time. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you guys for being here.